Welcome to Law Subscribed. This is your dedicated news source for all things subscriptions in the law. My name is Matthew Kurbis. I'm the subscription attorney, and I believe subscriptions can help bridge the access to justice gap and incentivize attorneys to modernize and scale their practice like never before. On this show, I interview lawyers ditching the billable hour and experts who can help attorneys move beyond billing time. Thanks to my sponsors, 650 and Gavel. Links to both in the show notes. More on them later, and use the code LAWSUBSCRIBED when signing up. You get 10% off, and it supports the show. The best way to support the show is to share it with someone you know. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only, and nothing said is legal, ethical, or financial advice. Without further delay, here's the episode. We are live. Okay, we are getting some people here live. Dorna, welcome back to another special episode of Law Subscribed Live. I feel like we're going to have to do these at least once every year. This time, for longtime followers of me on LinkedIn, you'll know that we screwed this up the last time and we had to go live on another link, but we did it this time so far. I hope I didn't jinx it. Okay, now we're up to 11 and Brittany is here. She's in the chat. So Brittany, thanks for maybe helping us out in the chat. Dorna, do you want to go ahead and say hello and who you are and what's Gavel?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. It's always when we're talking about technology that we have technological difficulties, right? Which was what happened about a year ago when we tried to do LinkedIn Live. But here we are, excited to be here and excited to talk all about some of the new features that we have on Gavel. I know our podcast episode that we recorded just a few days ago is coming out soon. So people will get to listen to that as well. But excited to dive in.
Yeah. So just in case we're going to be showing some new features of Gavel, like you said, but just in case people are like, what the heck is Gavel? Dorna, what the heck is Gavel?
Yes. So Gavel is an end-to-end legal automation platform. And so what you can do with Gavel is you can build everything from taking in the client intake, gathering your client information into the document automation, which is very robust document automation, into even turning those document automation workflows into legal products, which is where you monetize and serve up those legal products at scale to change your business model altogether. So whatever your level of technological proficiency and comfort, there is something in Gavel for you to make your practice either more efficient and more profitable.
And that's why we love you at Law Subscribed, and we're so happy that Gavel sponsors the show. Just a reminder, everybody, Law Subscribed, one word, will save you 10% on an annual subscription. So and there's a free trial, so definitely try that out. In the interview, we get into how you're using Gen AI, and you're incorporating AI into the platform now, and you talked about a little bit about some of these features, and so that's what we're here to see today, because in that interview we didn't get to cover it. So Gavel Blueprint, first tell us what's Blueprint?
Yes. So Gavel Blueprint is our AI feature. And what it does is it's really AI that you can both control and understand. And the reason I use those two words, understand and control, is because when you're building a Gavel workflow, which is typically a rules-based workflow. So on Gavel, you can configure all the rules to tell the system how you want your frequently used documents to be generated over and over again. Those rules can be very complex. However, what you have to do is you have to put those rules into the system. And what Gavel Blueprint, our AI feature, does is it automatically helps you create these workflows from scratch. So I'll show you in a minute and let me know if you want me to start the screen share now. But basically what you do is you come onto Gavel, you take all your perfect templates, you drop them into Gavel, and then Gavel will create a workflow for you where you can accept or reject all the different fields that it suggested you capture from your clients.
So just let me highlight there. If you were hesitant to use Gavel before because you were concerned about, I don't know how to even structure the logic of if this, then that, now with Blueprint, this is something that it's gonna do those first few steps for you, right?
Exactly.
Let's see it.
All right,
bring it
perfect.
up.
And I'll just share my screen right here.
And while that's loading up, PDF tagger, this is maybe something that you're going to get into next. And if you want to, we could just keep the screen shared, or we could bring it down. That'll be up to you.
Perfect. Yeah, I can flow from one into the other, actually. So
okay.
It'll be a nice transition, because on Gavel, what you can do is you can automate both Word documents. So most lawyers have a lot of their custom documents in Microsoft Word. You can automate Word documents. Everything that you have in terms of formatting functionality in the Word documents will be kept intact in the final version. So we integrate very well with Word. But you can also automate PDF documents, which, as you said, is the new PDF tagger feature that we have just launched. So what I'm going to show you first is Gavel Blueprint, which is how you can drop your documents into Gavel and automatically create a workflow. And then that'll lead to a nice segue into showing you how you can also custom tag your own PDF documents. And then I'll show you what the end workflow looks like as well. So let's start with Gavel Blueprint. What you're seeing right now on your screen is when you first log into Gavel, you as a builder, so as someone who's creating these workflows from scratch, you can start with your questions from scratch. And this is the non-AI feature. So you can build anything by configuring your questions and your rules and your documents on your own with no AI if you choose the one on the left. But what I'm showing you today is Gavel Blueprint. So when we click here,
And
what it allows.
I do want to ask about that it says beta. So beta just basically means it's not perfect yet. It's
Exactly.
working. It's in a working state, but it's not perfect. And a lot of tech companies will let users use things that are in beta. And it just means because it helps in the iteration process, but it's also a feature that the company decides is valuable enough that it's something that you should also get access to, right? And that's essentially what Gavel's done with launching this beta feature.
Exactly. And especially with the tool that is AI enabled, we are always improving it, as we are honestly with all of our features, but we are always improving Gavel Blueprint. And so we'll have more logic included in future versions. There's a lot that we're working on to make it more perfect and ensure that you can get your workflows up and running much more rapidly. So what I'll do now is I'm going to just drop a single document in this case, but you can load as many documents as you want into Gavel Blueprint. And this will help me create a workflow. And this is going to be a workflow for a privacy policy. So we'll call it privacy policy generator. So I dropped in a California privacy policy. And what this now does for me is it scans my entire document to see where do we think all of your fields are. So where are the different fields that you could be wanting to create them into questions. So as you can see here, there might be one like here, it's trying to see, do I want to define the sensitive personal information? I might decide that, you know what, that's a field that I actually don't want to define. I want it to remain just as it is. So I might reject that field. But then it's also capturing that here, the privacy policy applies to software name and company name, and there's a website address, software description. There's a bunch of these fields that are going to be different every time. And so what I can do is I'm going to, by default, it's accepted for me. So I'll just continue scrolling through here and say, that is actually a question that I want to ask my client, or that I want to ask my internal staff as we're generating these privacy policies each and every time.
So in this document that you uploaded, the document has these tags already in there because you're obviously, as the CEO of Gavel, you have these documents that are automated already. So in your document, it says software name and company name, right? It doesn't actually have a software name and company name.
Exactly. So there are a few of these that have tags built in already. So for example, this has little brackets next to it. But you can see there are other locations where either tags are different, or there are just other locations where the system thinks, this might want to be a field. We might want to make this a field.
Right. So just so that the watchers can know, because I've also been playing around with Gavel Blueprint now. Like, I don't have pre-tagged anything in these documents that I'm uploading, right? So if I'm uploading an NDA or an asset purchase agreement and it has the parties' names of the last one that I did, it will identify them in a similar way, correct?
Exactly. That's a great question. Yeah. So you might be loading a document that's not even necessarily a template. It might have like Jane Doe's name from Acme Corp, and it'll identify those fields as fields that, as you're building out your automated workflow so that you can rapidly generate these documents every single time, those should be fields that we ask questions about. And these questions are going to be, these workflows can be used both internally and in a client-facing way. So whether it's a privacy policy that you're having your staff, an associate, or your paralegal fill out client information for to generate the document, or whether it's somewhere where you're actually doing the client intake through your clients, the clients are going to enter all their information. Those are both options that are possible. So that's where you might want to change the question that it's suggesting. And you can do that in the next step as well. But if you want to do it right here, I might say, like, what is the name of your software? If I'm directing this at the client who's filling this out themselves. So you'll go through and tag, continue, accepting or rejecting, all the different fields. If I had multiple documents, you'd see them all up here. So I would be able to tag all of them, be able to accept and reject all the different tags that it's suggested for me. And then the next step here is you go ahead and draft your workflow. So as a next step, it's going to create a workflow that I can then modify, edit. As you can see, it has all these different questions here, but I can move them into, it created a custom page title for me, but I can change all of these.
So let me just highlight another thing here. So all on the left-hand side, when you scrolled up and down, those are all the tags and the questions associated with those tags.
Exactly.
And that's
Exactly.
what Blueprint identified as tags.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
previously, if I was starting from scratch in Gavel without Blueprint, I would have to go in and I would have to do all of those tags manually, or somebody from my team would.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
while that
And so if
it's
you want to do
still
anything with document automation, that's how it works.
right, and so while it takes a few hours maybe to now have a repeatable process that you never need to do ever again, so it was still worth it. But if that was holding somebody back, just mind blowing the amount of work that was done in such little time. Talk about the power of AI. So even if you still want to go through and identify and confirm every single one of those, the amount of work that would have had to be been done to just create that in the first place is now handled by Blueprint.
Definitely. And you can
Huge.
modify and edit and customize this all the way that you want to. We found that with Gavel Blueprint on more simple workflows, because obviously Gavel handles really, really complex workflows as well. On more simple workflows, it saves you, it's about a 10x speed improvement in how fast you can build these up. And as we introduce new features into Blueprint, that'll become even faster and faster.
Right, right. And now, while of course building automations was never a billable task that a lawyer could, bill a client for, now if you're able to create these automations and productizations and repeatable processes so much more quickly, your ability to get a return on investment by charging your clients either an ongoing subscription for access to these things or the value of the automation and the document that you're providing with this tool, it just the ability to get there quicker skyrockets, and it's amazing.
Definitely. And what's interesting is I think a lot of the attorneys who are practicing in areas where automation could be beneficial, they already they're starting to move towards flat fees, subscription fees, alternative business models. So this is typically, I think a lot of times people think, oh, automation, what does that mean for my job? It means increased revenue because you're now able to tap into so many more clients who need your services at either the same rates or maybe slightly lower, but at an increased volume.
Right. So, realistically, we're going to want to go through all these before we let it be client facing or internal facing, right? But so then what would be the next step? Like after now you've got this done, you've gone through all these, you've confirmed them, you've made some changes. Like what do you do next after you've used Blueprint?
Yeah, so actually this might be a good segue into showing the PDF tagger
Okay.
because the PDF tagger is an example of another step that you would take in continuing to customize this workflow to your needs. So what I want to do is I want to jump over to so this is another workflow that I have that is going to have that has PDFs in it right here. And there are two main tabs. So what you were just looking at as we went from Blueprint into this workflow builder is you were looking at the questions tab. So Blueprint had created 45 different questions for us to generate our privacy policy. Now I want to move into a divorce workflow. And the reason for that is because divorce usually involves PDF documents. So we looked at Word documents before, now we're looking at PDF documents. So here's a divorce workflow that I built that has just a few questions in it. It has some questions about some general information, and then it has some questions about children. You could add as many, many more questions here as well. But what I'm going to do is these are the questions that I'm going to ask, but I want to connect them to some of my PDF documents as well. So what I've done is I don't know how much of the audience here is California specific, but I have two California divorce documents loaded here. And I can open this document and I can start to tag it to all those different questions that either, maybe I didn't have tagged before that are not tagged to a Gavel Blueprint Word document, but that I want to tag from scratch. So let's go, like you can do this with any court form, any government form, any PDF, even an internal one. What you do is you load it over here and then you can tag all these different fields. So I see, and let me know, should I make this a little bit bigger? Maybe that helps a little bit. So you can see on this PDF, I have a field for name. And Because I might be an attorney, I might want to enter some text here and say, this is the law office of Dorna Mooney. Or I might want to enter that onto the next page. So there are places where you can insert text that is not variable. So every single time it's going to say law office of Dorna Mooney here. But there are places where the text is going to be variable or based on logic. And so here where we have petitioner, that's going to be one of those types of fields. So I might say I want to insert a variable and I want to connect it to petitioner name. And then here's one that I haven't tagged yet. I might say I want to insert a variable and I want to tag it to respondent name. And I can do that for all of these different fields. So I can tag all these different fields to those questions that I've created.
Okay, hold on. This is great, but let me just provide some context here that I think is really important, right? And tell me if I'm wrong about this. But this is like a court form that you're going to have to fill out in every single case. So if I tag this once, then whenever I have a client put in their information associated with their file and they fill out petitioner name, respondent name, or whatever, now for every future document, like this has now been tagged, or do I have to tag this for each new case?
Exactly. So the tagging process and the building process that we've shown both with Blueprint and with the PDF tagger are a one-time thing. So you only need to do this once. Once you have it perfect, you never need to touch it again, unless obviously sometimes courts will change their document, but then you just load the new version. Any prior tags will be recognized if there are similar fields, but if the court has added, a new field in 2024, then you'll tag that to whatever you want as well.
I mean, at the end of the day, even if you are billing time, you can't bill for like simple filling in forms, right? And so what this does, even if you are a billable hour firm, which I hope nobody watching this is, and if you are, www.lawsubscribe.com, listen to what all the attorneys are doing to not be billing their time. And founders like Dorna come on with tools that help you not do that. But like this just gets rid of so much administrative work. I mean, it's unbelievable, like the power of that. I mean, in Cook County, Illinois, I mean, I'm not a litigator anymore, but we would always be downloading PDFs from the court's website and filling them in. And sure, it's easy, but why do that all the time if you could just get rid of that administrative work? That's a massive time saver for you. And you could pass along that savings to your clients if you decide to not have a lot of overhead and a lot of staff and want to offer all affordable, accessible pricing.
Definitely. And then on that last piece that you said, passing this over to your client, that's a nice little segue into actually showing how this works. So let me go ahead and save this. When I then run my workflow, I have this workflow that I can put in front of, I can either fill it out myself, obviously, if I wanted my internal team to fill it out. And what we would do is we just fill out these pieces. The other thing is I could cut, obviously everything you see here can be completely customized. So questions can be the way that you want to draft them, colors, fonts, you can even change the logo, make it all really branded to your own firm. But then you can also put this in front of your client. So you can either send them a link of this. You can send it to them in an email. You can embed these workflows or a group of workflows that gets us even deeper on your website. And then your client can even go through this. So if you have ever thought about, I want to build the TurboTax for my area of law, or I want to build the LegalZoom for my area of law, and I know I can do it well, and then I'll be able to kind of go through these much more rapidly. This is the way to do it. So what I'll do here is I'll just fill out the information, maybe it's Jane Doe versus John Doe. And then I can answer these questions. So I have some questions that have logic embedded in them. So if I say it's a divorce, then this other question is going to show up. If I say it's a legal separation, then it's not going to show up. And then what I could do is, and then I also have these different fields that are called repeating item fields. This is really, really critical. Anyone who's thinking about using automation in any way, I urge you to make sure that you have repeating items as a feature. So what we do with repeating items is if you want to collect information about a list of information, so like your children or your children's children or grandchildren or shareholders, that would be something you'd want to put in a repeating item, because you don't know if you're going to have just Jamie, born on 1/2000, or Janie and Jackie, who's born on 1/2/2002, something like that. So you can add as many children as you want here. So it allows you these data structures that really handle the full power of your practice.
So here's a question for you then. So I'm having a client fill out this information, and maybe it's even in an intake. Like if I'm getting it in the intake, do they have to fill it out again, or is there a way to capture and maintain that client's data? So like we know petitioner is always going to be Jane Doe, or is that something that we will have to go in and maybe fill out again in the other form for the other document, or is there some way to like link these in the back or something like that?
Definitely. So there is an option. So we have a lot of integrations depending on if you're I'm assuming you're talking about using another intake tool. So if you have another intake tool, you can integrate that with Gavel and pass the information automatically into Gavel. So for example, if you're using Clio, we integrate directly with Clio. It's one click to have that information passed forward. However, I would also think about just using this as your client intake piece because what you're seeing here can flow into the data stored inside of Gavel. You can push it into other systems. So you may want to just have the Gavel be your client intake system that then generates the documents as well.
Great. Yeah. I mean, I was really asking the latter, but I'm glad you distinguished between the two. And so if I'm getting a client in the door and we're filing the divorce for them, to stick with this hypothetical, and we have their name as petitioner, when we're generating an MSA or a marital settlement agreement, like that name, since it's already been tagged and it's in Gavel for that client, it just goes into the petitioner's name in the marital settlement agreement. Then when you're ready to run that document or whatever it would be, do I have that right?
Exactly. Exactly. When you're ready to run that document and generate the documents. Exactly. And so actually I can show you the last step of that. This is a very short workflow, obviously, just to show you pretty quickly on this call, but we've gathered some information and the final step is generating those documents. So in this case, we had 2 documents that were being generated. We've seen clients generating hundreds of documents with lots of logic as to which documents are generated. So that's one piece I would really emphasize that we didn't have as much time to talk about today, but you can embed logic in any portion of the workflow. But now we have these 2 documents that are generated for us. These happen to be, obviously we're showing the PDF tagger. So these are PDF documents, but if you had Word documents, they could be generated as both Word and PDF documents as well. And then you're kind of on your way. You can show to display you can choose to display the documents here or to have them emailed to a certain location, sent into your case management system, sent into any other, sent into your Dropbox if that's what you use. So there are lots of options as to what you can do here. It can be customized.
All right. Can you show us? Can you download it and show us the
Oh,
PDF? Is
yes.
that
So
Yeah.
this one we only tag to a few fields. So we have these pieces that are tagged here. With a more robust document, you'd have all of the information filled out if we had filled out, all the information about our client.
Right. Right. Okay. Well,
And then
unshare
if
your
you do have
go
client
ahead.
information inside of the system, you also wouldn't have to fill out this intake like we just did. What you'd be able to do is just pull that data directly from your data manager into a new set of documents. And then your documents would be automatically created so you wouldn't have to go through the intake process again.
And then to the extent there's any missing information, you just have to fill in the missing information. You don't have to repeat all the stuff that the system already has.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, great. Well, we'll unshare screen. All right, there we go. We're back. We have a few more minutes left that we budgeted for time, and I'm glad we were able to make it through there. So these are called Gavel's Blueprint and PDF Tagger. New features available now on Gavel.
Available now. Yes, exactly.
Okay, and gavel.io is the website.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And we also have our new Gavel legal trends report, which I promised I'd talk about as well, that came out last week. So if you are a small or solo firm, particularly, because that's what this report was specifically created for, I would highly encourage you to go look up our Gavel legal trends report, read through it, because if you're thinking about implementing new technology in your firm, it'll really guide you through what are the trends people are seeing, what should I be doing first, and how do I approach it in a way that's not super overwhelming given all the information that's out there for me.
All right, sounds good. And if we mentioned the website, the trends report's on the website, I'm assuming, right?
Yes, it is.
And anything else you'd like to promote, or if they wanted to follow up with you? I mean, we're here on LinkedIn, so obviously connect with you on LinkedIn, right?
Yes, definitely follow me on LinkedIn, or, connect with me on LinkedIn. And I also recently started doing videos that educate lawyers about technology topics. They're super short, bite-sized videos, like a minute to 2 minutes each. And if you follow me on any channel, I'm Dorna_@_Gavel on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Twitter. And if you want to learn more about any of those topics, just scroll through and let me know if there are topics you want me to cover that I haven't already covered.
And just so you know how genius of an idea I think that is, and Jordan and I already talked about this previously, but I also independently came up with an idea to do the exact same thing, but in bite-sized, like, educational things for law for kids. So I'll just promote out there.
I am very excited to listen to.
Yes, LFK Pod is in Law for Kids podcast on all the socials. and lawforkidspodcast.com if you want to subscribe to the newsletter. Because I'm so
I didn't know it was already
independently.
one, so I'm gonna go look it up now.
Do it. And independently, Dora and I came up with the ideas to do these bite-sized videos. So I think if you're just thinking about marketing for your firm, consider bite-sized videos on social media in the future.
Maybe we should go a little meta. We talk about videos on our videos.
Definitely. Dorna, thanks again for coming on Law Subscribed Live.
Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
And that's our show. Thanks again to 650 and Gavel for being sponsors. The best way for others to discover this show is for you to share it with somebody you think would find value from it. Follow me on LinkedIn, since that's where I'm most active on social media, and click the bell towards the top right of my profile to get notified about all of my posts about this podcast and everything else I think is valuable for you to see. To get in touch, message me on LinkedIn or email kurbis@lawsubscribed.com. All links are in the show notes. Until next time, this is Matthew Kurbis with Law Subscribed.